As you've probably seen, I lost to Ira. And if you haven't seen the match footage, I highly recommend you watch it. This is my first match back playing a competitive 2 out of 3 sets in a year and a half. And I learned a lot about myself and kind of where my game is. And in this video, I'm going to deconstruct the match footage, just like I've been doing for lots of other players. And I'm going to show you the 5 main reasons why I believe I lost that match, and then let you know exactly how I'm going to be working on them so that you know what to expect in our upcoming videos. They say the most important shot in tennis is the serve. I totally agree with that. And if that's true, the return of serve is the second most important shot. It's the shot that starts the point and sets the tone and either neutralizes or gives advantage to you or gives advantage to your opponent. And in these 2 sets of play against Ira, there's no question that my return of serve gave him the advantage more times than it didn't. So this is a quick montage of me trying to neutralize Ira's serve and it just not working. And these first 2 in particular, I think are good cases where Ira, hit a good serve and frankly, he served really well. And many of you mentioned that in the comments below the match play. But serves like this, normally I expect to be able to basically just use a volley technique, find the middle of the strings, and just put the ball back someplace, relatively deep in the court, just to neutralize it and start off on even ground. And that was not happening in this match. What was happening was I was mishitting most of those shots in an attempt to just kind of neutralize the points. And so instead of landing somewhere in that circle, the ball ended up landing somewhere in this circle. And Ira has enough weapons, he's a strong enough player that if I give him that ball again and again and again, he's just going to take over the points right from the very first shot. And he's too good of a player for me to possibly expect to challenge him or break his serve unless he just has an off game, which he happened to have in the first game of the match. But after that game, he ended up just rolling over me in most of his service games because I could not neutralize his serve. So for me, this is probably the first most important thing. And by the way, these aren't necessarily in order, but this is a huge one. If you can't neutralize your opponent's serve somewhat regularly, then you're going to struggle. And the chances of you breaking their serve are going to be extremely low. To make matters even worse, I was struggling to just get the return in, period. And so here's a quick montage of me trying to just block the ball back. I'm not trying to hit topspin. I'm not trying to hit the ball hard or aggressively. And just not being able to even just find the strings. And for me, this is just a symptom of not playing any matches, not receiving any serves like this. And again, credit to Ira, he served really well. But these types of serves, frankly, I've seen before, but I'm just not attuned to reading the ball and catching it cleanly and just sending it back. So just kind of a little bit of an add-on here. This really killed me, just not being able to even start the point, much less be able to place the ball somewhere back in the court and neutralize the starting of the rally. Once the points actually got started, I think the second main reason why Ira really controlled things was something that many of you pointed out in the comments. And a lot of you really excellent feedback and analysis in the comments below the match play of Ira and I. See if you can kind of figure out the theme here on these couple of rallies where Ira hits a shot, and watch what I'm doing with my positioning. This is something that many of you pointed out very, very correctly. Ira's pace was pushing me away. It was causing me to fall back. And I was consistently trying to buy myself a little bit of extra real estate, a little bit of extra room, instead of standing my ground and trying to go toe-to-toe and match Ira. And this was, I mentioned in the confessional camera, his pace caught me off guard. I expected him to try to kind of play the rally game with me, but he came out firing, and frankly, I didn't have an answer for it this day. And so as I back up, and again, credit to Ira. This is a ball that's coming in pretty firmly, pretty aggressively. Many of you said in the comments Ira's forehand was looking like a 5-0 forehand, and I agree with that. But I've played against 5-0s. The ball is landing. It's not like it's hitting the baseline. And so normally, for me, I wouldn't expect that I have to give up this much real estate just to send that ball back. But on this particular day, I was caught off guard by the pace, by the tempo, by the pace of Ira's shots. And so I was consistently backing off the baseline and giving Ira more court to work with. And so frequently you'd see me, backing away from the baseline, kind of coming in a little bit, backing away from the baseline, coming in a bit. And then I was kind of creating a V where every time Ira would hit to one side or the other, I was moving back at a diagonal. And against a player who's hitting the ball strongly like Ira was, that's just a recipe for disaster. If we were outdoors on a slow court, maybe I could have come away with like a net positive from that type of movement. But on this court, which is very, very fast, as soon as I start, here's my starting position. As soon as I pivot and start traveling away from the center of the court, not just laterally, but also vertically, I'm opening up space for Ira. And it also makes it more difficult for me to control the depth of my shot. So the next time I play Ira, and if you've been watching my training videos with Eric, he's been working a lot with me on standing my ground, hitting the ball higher, taking the ball earlier, and I think that's going to be a really big key for me moving forward as I develop my skills. The third reason why Ira took control of this match was my serve just really didn't challenge him. I'll go ahead and play through. These are actually just the same points that I played a second ago, but watch how Ira is right on top of the baseline here, and he frequently was there for first serves. He was not bothered by my leftiness. He wasn't bothered by the movement of my serve. Maybe 2 or 3 times in 2 sets, it kind of caught him a little bit off guard. But I didn't get any freebies for the lefty serve. He did a fantastic job of staying on top of the baseline, taking the return relatively early, and then watch this return with his backhand and just making a confident, swing towards the ball. That's the shot that's moving me back and off the courts. And so consistently, he was on top of that baseline, returning my serve very, very early and just pressuring me right off the bat. So my serve, in the past, I've had shoulder problems, and honestly, I've been relatively careful and not wanting to overdo it as I start to slowly kind of ramp up. And that's something that has to change, and it has. I've done several training sessions since this match, and I played another match just yesterday, which we're going to be showing you soon. I did another challenge match against a different player, and I'm slowly starting to increase the intensity of my acceleration on my serve. When I play Ira again, which we're definitely going to do another challenge match, a big focus of mine is going to be racket head speed and intensity on my serve. I can't let him camp on top of that baseline and immediately dictate right from the beginning of these points, or else I'm going to definitely struggle again next time. If you like what you're seeing and you're serious about improving your game, I highly recommend you go to essentialtennisacademy.com. This is the inside of the members area, and within Academy, there's all these different categories of coaching, tons of different lesson modules that cover every part of the game, and you can check it out for free right now at essentialtennisacademy.com. The fourth reason why I lost this match is I did a really poor job of changing up my tactics. And several of you pointed this out in the comments. You're absolutely correct. I really just kind of stuck to the same game plan the entire match. And I just, in hindsight, I had blinders on. I was so kind of caught off guard by the pace and the tempo. I was so surprised by Ira's level of play and the pace of play that I just wasn't thinking very clearly. And so I pulled the one time that I served and volleyed, and I lost this point, but look at the result. I mean, I had a fantastic setup here. And by the way, this was, I remember that, 2-2. This is 2-2, 40-15 in the second set. If I make this volley, like we just did a video on missing these easy volleys. If I make this volley, I go up 3-2 in the second set on serve, but still, Ira won the second set 6-2. This one shot here would have put me up in the second set, and we were on serve, and who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But I really aggressively took my eyes off this shot and just kind of like flipped it into the net. That's the one time I served and volleyed. In hindsight, seeing how much Ira just really dictated play, stuck on top of the baseline, and just kept me on the defense, I have no idea why I didn't serve and volley. And really, like if you've seen me play against Kevin, I went to all serve and volley tactic in a second set when he was controlling the baseline. I should have done that against Ira. I should have given him another look when he started pulling away in the second set, but I just didn't do that. If seeing my breakdown here has been helpful or interesting, do me a favor, click the like button. It really helps the video out. I appreciate it a lot. The second way that my tactics in hindsight, I just don't know what I was thinking. The serve and volley in hindsight is so obvious to me, and many of you pointed it out. I totally agree with you. Something else that I should have done is just backed off the base. I was struggling with the return so much. This is that quick montage again. Watch my position when I shank these returns. I'm right on top of the baseline, step inside the baseline. There was a little variation. That was a little bit further back, but I'm like continuing to struggle. This one I actually think it was a little bit reasonable, but here on top of the baseline, as I watched through the footage and I watched myself struggle with the return over and over again, there's a lot of space behind the baseline and up to the curtain. And that's actually a big adjustment I made in my challenge match yesterday against a different player. Was I just gave myself a lot of space and gave myself subsequently a lot of time to just read the incoming ball and be able to line up my return of serve. Against Ira, I struggled on the return, and it just gave him a lot of free points, and it gave him a lot of easy shots right off the bat in the beginning of our points on his serve. And so I kind of had blinders on. I was kind of taken off guard. First match back in a while. These are the types of tactical mistakes that if you're not paying attention, really leads to setting things up for your opponent. The fifth big reason why I lost to Ira this day was fitness. And I'm curious, out of the 5 that I've mentioned, which do you think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, was the big, why do you think was the biggest reason or the biggest cause of me losing this match? I'd be curious to know what you think down below. But Ira mentioned it a couple times in the confessional camera, and actually between points, he's like, oh man, Ian's getting tired. And that was absolutely true. Like, my fitness was just not there yet. At this point, I had done 1 training session with Eric. And so frankly, this match was just me jumping into the deep end. Ira played fantastic. He did exactly what he should have done to exploit all the holes and the opportunities that I left open for him. And so definitely hats off to Ira, but I just couldn't keep up, physically. I couldn't keep up with the pace. So let me know in the comments down below, which of those 5 areas, here I want to make sure I remember, I didn't neutralize my returns. I was backing off of shots instead of standing my ground. My serves didn't challenge Ira. I never changed my tactics on the serve or the return. And then finally, fitness. Let me know which of those you think contributed the most in the comments down below. And please know that in the meantime, I'm continuing to work really hard. I had my 5th session with Eric today. I did a new challenge match yesterday, and the footage from those, as well as everything else I've been doing to train, it's coming soon. Like, it's all in the pipeline. I'm really looking forward to continuing to share with you my journey, how I'm working on making improvements based on what I learned here. So if you appreciate that, click the like button, and let me know down in the comments why you think the main reason was that I lost on this day to Ira. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.